indicators and evidence of last year's. Year number 2 of 09. The questions that I'm going to bring before the board are for 09, the policy itself and the indicators moving forward. And so I want to clarify that now because they won't necessarily impact how you view 09 in 2 weeks, because those are purely, the evidence you'll get will be purely based off the prior years. So this is a carryover of our time that we had together at the workshop, and the board put a significant amount of time and work into that workshop. But we did kind of walk over with a few, I would say, kind of solutions that I want to make sure that we shored up and make sure that OE9 was appropriate. So the one that we came to a recommendation that we left the space with was specifically OE 9.1.3, which was an indicator, and we had enough evidence to come before you with a recommendation just for that indicator, and that's 9.1.3. Right. And that recommendation would be that the district will offer a variety of modalities for a broad array of care holders to provide appropriate input on the direction of the district during the school year. That was the language we kind of discussed together at the workshop, but I had not brought it back in the formal presentation for your formal approval. So again, not to bounce us back and forth, I would like to kind of put a pin in that and move forward with the recommendation that we created in the workshop. Additionally, and we kind of stopped our conversation, we just purely ran out of time, and we'd already put a significant amount of time in. Based off that conversation, I would also like permission to bring the administrative team back together to review 9.1.1 and 9.1.2, because as we learned, many of the factors that are based off of the Hanover survey were not meeting the criteria that the board expects for the modular or for evidence. And so, but I did not at that time have permission to take it back to the team to report again, provide a recommendation to the board. So we're not coming to you with a recommendation yet. We're coming to you with the need to bring the team together. And so that request was that administration wanted to explore with Hanover a tool that will allow administration to provide appropriate data to measure compliance with OE9, communicating with the public, which is indicators 9.1.1 and 9.1.2.
And for that, that's just, I mean, strictly the evidence that you're going to provide for us. So we don't really need our approval, other than would that meet kind of our expectations that we just conform with that?
Well, I need the approval to go back and read just the indicator.
Yeah.
Because it was already approved.
Yeah. Makes sense. Are there any questions on the board?
So in the two different buckets, I move this over into board action. A would be a recommendation from 9.1.3 to move forward with the recommendation that we created together in the workshop. And again, states the district will offer a variety of modalities for a broad array of care holders to provide appropriate input on the direction of the district during the school year. 9.1.3, pause there.
Sounds good. Just as we're reading this, I'm curious, will this impact any of the definitions that we're going through? You know, we're talking about a variety of modalities. How do we measure it? What is a variety? So we don't make a variety means one thing, I think it's another, and then the people may think that broad array means something ripped down, maybe it's another. How do we know that we're on the same page? So we're not giving you a squishy target that, you know, if somebody thinks that 15 different care groups is a broad array, that we're not consistent. I'm just going to make sure it's not a subjective.
It is in its current form. I've also notice that if we put a specific number in place, those have to work.
And that's what we're kind of doing in this, right? Like we have put,
Yeah.
and I think to your question there, I think it will, unfortunately, it puts a little bit of a taller challenge on the administration to try and prove with evidence that it does meet a variety of modalities. I mean, we just have to see what understand this. 'Cause that's, I was thinking the same thing, and then I remember we had a number in there and we were like, why did we pick up 6? Was it arbitrary? Yeah.
I also think, I think it's okay to have it be subjective. I mean, if I think it's not a waterway, I don't know, and the other 6 think it is, then it is. And if, 5 of us think it's not, then it's not. I think that an indicator like this, subjectivity is okay, because the objectivity we're actually trying to take away. What I want to know is, and this is, I remember us covering this in the workshop. Care holders isn't a term that I'm familiar with. Is that something that we've defined, or if not, could you just define it for me now so I make sure it covers everybody?
It is the main term is the pharmaceutical direct term that we use formerly stakeholders.
Oh, okay.
But
And was that defined?
But as a point, I don't think it is as familiar, so almost like the question is asked itself, is the definition a policy itself, or the definition separate?
I would say,
Also approved interpretations prior.
but if this is a substitution of one word, one term in lieu of a comparable term, I mean, if you're just subbing out one term for another.
There was not a definition.
Yeah, the OE itself says the public should be important, and then public is, so,
Yeah, I think the definition of shareholders just simply needs to be added, maybe, to say shareholders mean previously defined stakeholders. Yeah, or a little different.
But I think that's, I think it just as we go, then maybe a term our community isn't as familiar with, and we, is that something different than just, the stakeholders, the community, so I think we're trying to there's ease of reading, but I think it doesn't mean it would change anything, it's not really like it was a, or committee. Yeah.
I also think the definitions are always definitions of terms in the OE, not definitions of terms in the indicators.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's true. It's defining the areas where we're not defining.
Okay, for your test for slow down,
Just at this time, 9.1.
okay, is there a motion to approve, 9.1.3 as reasonable as presented?
So,
There's a motion from John, and a second from Joe. All in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Indicator is approved as presented.
And then finally, ask for approval, board approval for a request to begin the process for bringing back to the board an indicator modification for 9.1.1 and 9.1.2.
Can I ask a silly question? As much as I appreciate that communication, do we have to approve all of because I think, shouldn't it be that at any time if they're like, this indicator is confusing us, or it's not serving us, like, we don't feel like we're making the best case? Shouldn't it be that we always get to come to us and say, we would really like to work with Hanover Group, and we worked with them and we came up with this new definition? Is it just because it's an outside consultant?
No, I think the board can determine if they'd like to go to vote with it or not. I feel the professional appropriate from the board. because it's already, been thought out and approved by the board, and then come back and say, no, we just did all that, we changed it, we don't. The formal presentation.
So because it's contemplated, that's where we figure it out.
Right.
I don't think we need to do a formal, vote on it, but I think it would make sense to get consensus a little bit. And then kind of
I also like working with the group that we've already with so much, that seems like asking that.
Yeah. And then there's additional, changes to be recorded and already been on the record.
And then just to finally just prep us for 2 weeks out, the last two things that were formally and informally approved will not have a bearing on the presentation of overnight in 2 weeks, because that's a monitoring for some action indicators.
So we'll see this in 2024.
Yeah. Lastly, I'm sure one of our board members brought this to my attention, and I thought it was a good time to just formally just talk about it. We do know that, rightly so, we are all members in our community, and we're seeing this in public, and we'll just get questions about scenarios or things that we would like to address. And mostly what meeting the board is so on board, rightly so, that's from the meeting. And that's also we're done, and I also, we have a flow chart that, and very quickly, just handing out our copies to the board, and also showing the board where they're at on the website. It shows if you, who's the first person you spoke to, and then show the flow chart of where we go to next, because in general, most people know Board of Education and the superintendent, and do letters that go. So I'm going to give one of these out, just kind of keep a copy or device, and also digitally on our website. If when the families go on the website and click on the families, it's on it's under the families link. The flow chart comes up. It's called, we don't call it a flow chart, but that's not it. It's a communicate. Yeah.
Organizational structure and.
Yeah, communicating for student success. Yeah. A form of document.
Communicating for student success.
And that's nothing.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. All right, with that, the last part of the superintendent's report will be assisted by Chad Weezy and Mark Community.
No Mark forgetting.
Thank
Not Mark forgetting.
Andy. It's easy as promise that, he is a bylaw secretary, he's not going to speak to us.
No, we're gonna get all the important information in a timely, efficient manner. Yep. Good evening, board. It's good to see everybody again. I do have Andy Esmond, who you've had a chance to meet in the couple of times in closed session, but it's actually the first time I will introduce this work to our public in terms of what we want to discuss this evening. So Andy, I do want to give just a brief second for you to introduce yourself and your 30-second bio of what you bring to the world of real estate expertise.
30 seconds.
Okay.
I am the president of the Bell Evans Company. It's a Madison-based real estate consulting firm, brokerage, appraisals, and consulting. I've been with the Evans for about 40 years, and much of that time has been spent advising school districts around where real estate matters. I've worked with Chad in previous lifetime, previous administrations, and is now also help with some of the real estate.
Thank you. So we have a brief, but I think fairly exciting agenda. Some outcomes for everyone this evening. Here's what we'd like to do. I wanted to just remind the board of some of the things we shared with you last spring in alignment with growth projections and really mindful and responsible long-range facilities planning that, in my opinion, minus all the work that you do for the annual budget, can be some of the most important work we do in terms of the future direction of our school district. Legacy decisions that potentially will be made in the coming weeks and months that will have an impact on our district for decades and longer to come. So it's exciting to get to bring this proposal to you tonight. So we're going to go through those growth projections and again, just kind of re-ground the board in the fact that we are a growing school district. Obviously, that if you drive into the board meeting tonight, things are still actively growing in our school district, which is exciting. And we have a proposal for you that we'd like to go through this evening regarding a land acquisition for a future high school site, which, seeing that we're sitting in a building that almost still has the new car smell, it doesn't necessarily seem like the timing is right for that. But they don't make any more land in the Verona area school district. And if you're not doing this in a very planful, long-range fashion, you can get caught where all of a sudden down the road when we do need to build a second high school, there's not land available to do so. So we're going to go through a proposal tonight that will talk through location costs and the due diligence we've been working on now for the last 5-6 months on tonight's proposal. We're going to share with you just an initial fit study regarding the land that we're going to propose that the board has to sign off on. Some timing and next steps, and then a recommendation in terms of how this may come to fruition. And then kind of a one-off that we've got a developer that's come to us and would like to donate a very small section of property where we accidentally planted some pine trees decades ago, and they don't want it anymore because they don't want to deal with the headache, and they want to let us keep our pine trees. So that will be short and brief at the end of this. Not as exciting as 60 acres short, Verona area high school east, but necessary nonetheless. So I will do just a brief overview of the enrollment projections that Mark Roffers put together for us this spring, in line with OE that requires this evidence, and we continue to keep an eye on it. I did actually pull up the OE tonight, OE 12-1E. I think we're living in this evening, and that we're talking about assumptions in terms of growth patterns and doing mindful long-range planning. So as you can see in the next 3 slides, I'm going to share with you, all indications are over the next couple of decades, we will continue to grow as a school district. And our actually most immediate needs, we won't be discussing this evening. We will over the next couple of years. We will likely need to build an elementary school or a K-8 site somewhere down the road in the immediate future. And the high school property we're talking about tonight actually won't likely be anyone's work on this board. It's a 25 or 30-year investment before we actually have to have any construction happening throughout the school. So elementary is growing steadily around our school district. The same is true with our middle schools where things are growing steadily. And our high school, this will actually be, in terms of those 3 grade bands, the one that's the furthest out, and it should be. We built this building with capacity for another 600 or 700 students, and we do have a need to grow here, but the need will eventually be there. We reviewed this with the board again in the spring, and this is just a reminder to continue to make sure that we're using sound logic and data on both projections with the important purchase and proposal to the board this evening. And out of an 80-page report, I plugged a few of the very important things just to remind the board of as we kind of discuss this tonight. Recommendations we all agreed that were sound this last spring. I'm not going to read every bullet, but there's a few on here that stood out for me as we reviewed these enrollment projections. It's important for us to serve all municipalities and neighborhoods in the future and with our current schools. I'm living this every day. Be responsible in terms of what we do with transportation. We have potentially one of the more complicated transportation setups in any district of our size with what we do with all of the charter schools and having a Fitchburg presence far east and this place being far west. And doing mindful long-range planning around having neighborhood schools that more students can walk through will be very important. And that's kind of central to what we're going to talk about tonight. And then there were just a couple other ones there. I think the last one's really important. Serve the district's mission around values, goals, and our activity plan. And I think neighborhood schools, building schools and building assets around the families and the students that need them is really important. And we can't respect that. This was, I thought, just a really good summary slide. And again, is just shows hot spots of growth around our district. You can see all of the hot spots are north and east in terms of where we are currently sitting this evening. And don't want to lose track of the fact that we have 650 elementary school students on an annual basis pouring out of a pocket of Fitchburg that will be there forever. And that's part of what we're going to talk about tonight, where we will eventually have high school students counted. Now will be time for questions in just a couple more slides. So Mark and Amy and John Bremer and myself reviewed this with the board this spring. And we had recommendations on characteristics where eventually we want to plant our second high school and have landed on more of an eastward or Fitchburg presence. I did highlight the fact that we will have to discuss this through long-range planning into the future, that little kind of dark brown or black circle on that map is a spot that we have an option to purchase 160 acres. That's the Jenny property. So we are going to have to figure out where that property fits in with our long-range planning in terms of middle school or elementary school sites. And we'll talk, and I think Joe may also add a few comments on this as well, around the benefits that can come along with school districts that are owning assets like real estate. But this is definitely the area we were targeting when we went through this work maybe 12, 4, 5, 6 months back. And tonight, this is my last slide here, we have a proposal for you in terms of a property that we've been able to work with a family and locate, and what my opinion would be actually ideal spot for the second high school that will come to fruition, like I said, 25 years, 20 years from now. And that's in as close as you can get to having 60 acres in central Fitchburg, right across the street from Savannah and Stony Brook. So that was it. And we didn't even have this work going behind the scenes. When Mark and I brought these recommendations to the board here in the spring, but we've made a lot of progress here over the last 4 or 5 months. So this idea of an eastward location to near our westward location at the school. I'm going to stop there on growth and enrollment. That was my attempt to tee up the conversation around 60 acres on the school. If there are no questions, I'm going to but any questions at all on me being there and sound long and
Really quick, it's so important, and I'm glad you heard you say 3 times put it in the floor space that I don't want to have one tomorrow that we're breaking. That's not the focus of the conversation. This is again a good quarter century away. But I do want to highlight the and celebrate this board because you look at potential actions that you may not experience as a student board member, but there's also that identity piece of kids, kids and the future of our community, be in solid hands. And as Chad opened up with, you just can't create that. They can't, that doesn't happen. So I'm appreciative of the forward thinking, especially following the sound data of what our projections look like. And that having the ability to set up a future, which is what the kid is doing, or to set up the future for the best possible scenarios. Just putting the funding for the thinking and planning behind it, but also the intentionality of this building so far.
I also just want to appreciate slide 22. I think it really encapsulates all of the data, right? The tangible, informative pieces that we're thinking about, along with the philosophical pieces that we carry in this district. And it just seems like some of these things are converging in such a thoughtful way that makes me really excited too. That we aren't having to do an or of being financially responsible or what do we value, but there's this synergy happening that I think is really exciting too. And so just, I think those bullet points are really helpful as reminders to us about the dialogue that we've had into the community of what we really are doing as one of our focus areas of these decisions.
And, just to check, preview this a little bit, but just to follow up on Ken's comment, the investments in land are very good investments for school districts, regardless of what happens with them in the future, because we hold the property without paying property taxes on it, and worst case scenario, in the next 30 years, population projections change or something changes, we sell the property and we don't pay capital gains tax on what we make off of the sale. So regardless of what happens with all this, the acquisition of property is today for the school district a really good investment.
Agreed. And that's quite frankly where we have Andy here. Andy is our kind of the third leg of the stool to walk us through making sure we're getting a fair price right now, and we're not buying something that's going to be a distant better in the future. And Andy, in his 40-year career, I can tell you, Dane County real estate has been a fairly sound investment. And so I feel like we're going to be in a good place that we get more permission to go forward with this purchase. Now we get to kind of go through in a public fashion the property that we've been working on now for the past few months. And I'd like to go through just an overview of where it is, what we've done in terms of how far we've taken this deal so far, share with you an initial fit study around what 60 acres of a high school on this land might look like, and then some recommendations and next steps. So the property we're going to discuss this evening is 60 acres, right across the street from Savannah Oaks Middle School. And it is a 40-acre parcel and another 20-acre parcel. You can see kind of the fence line there on the south side of that property. There are other municipal buildings right on Lacey Road. The fire station is right across the street there. This is a 100-year-old legacy family farm named after the Lacey family. We're working with the Lacey sisters on this property. And quite frankly, I think is an absolutely ideal location down the road from this school. We did a little bit of work, and I'm going to give Amy kind of the microphone here in terms of the work that we did. We did OE12 work in terms of how this fits with our long-range facilities plan. We did Mark Roffers enrollment projection work on the location in Central Pittsburgh, and that's when Amy comes in. That we asked him to help us with comparing fair and valid prices for what this property is worth. This was a 2-month negotiation behind the scenes to get to a final purchase price. The board eventually is the one that signs off on the deal, and that was one of the last final contingencies that we built into a signed offer. That this thing all goes out the window if I don't have the board votes to finalize the deal. And that's why we had to do a bunch of questions around when we ended up with the price. Andy, I think I'll kind of turn bullet 3 over to you in terms of where we ended up with price per acre and your methods to get us there.
So we used typical appraisal process that you would for vacant land. And you might have seen the slide of the property, it was a farm field. And the properties that we found that were comparable to it are also, except for one, we found 14 properties that were pretty comparable. One was mainly wood, but the other was all farm field. But they all fall into the category of future development, like the Lacey property does. And the question one has to try to analyze is where along the development timeline does the Lacey property fit relative to other sales that we've seen. And so the range of prices, and I should clarify, we talked about pricing in terms of dollars per acre, so sale price divided by the number of acres for properties like this. So when we talk about sale price per acre, the 14 properties that we found, some of them were very close to our property physically that we're talking about, others were in similar locations in Dane County. The range of prices was just under $10,000 for the lowest price property, and the highest one was $65,000. These types of properties can be further subdivided into how long it is expected to be developed the whole. And we talked about near-term development properties, medium-term development properties, and long-term development properties. You'll not be surprised to hear that the lowest price properties on a per acre basis, of course, are the long-term development properties. Those properties generally will not expect to be developable either physically or legally. Physically meaning they have utilities and infrastructure needed to develop, and legally zoning and so forth. 10 years or more. So there is speculative property. These properties have been bought by developers, not by farmers. So it's not farmland pricing, although the lowest prices are close to farmland pricing. Medium-term properties, which were the most that we found, range in price from about the low teens per acre, so $18,000 to mid $20,000, or $26,000. The highest of these medium-term. Those you can expect that will be developable in less than 10 years, but probably not more than 5 years. Those properties are shown on municipalities' future land use maps as being developable. The cities, towns have identified what they want to see there. For the lowest price ones, the municipalities have not even considered what might come there in the future. It's medium term, the cities and villages sort of know that development is coming, have started to plan for that. But those properties are not in terms of the timing of when that will happen. They're generally not that boundary lines of where the municipalities, utilities are, so they have to wait. And it's not up to the developer really, it's up to what the neighborhood develops. And so there's some speculation in terms of timing there. The final group of properties we found are called near-term developed properties, and those are pretty much ready to be developed right now if a developer wanted to start pursuing development. So generally between now and say 2 or 3 years out, you could expect physical buildings to be on these types of properties. They are inside of the urban service area, and that's a key thing because the urban service area is when you will get your utilities, the water and sewer. So the other ones were not in the urban service area. The near-term development properties are, and they range in price from about just under $40,000 per acre up to this one at $65,000 per acre. And they are in the process of becoming subdivisions. So, and all of this I explained to you now in much greater detail with lots of maps and so forth. I give the same explanation to Chad and to the Lacey family at the same time. So everybody's hearing the same thing from me pretty much at the same time. It was literally the same thing. I sat down the table and I went over all this. And so my conclusion is that the Lacey property is clearly more valuable than the long term. It's better than any of the medium term development properties because the urban service area boundary, which I've been talking about, is on their property line. It is right there. So this is as close to near-term development property as you could probably get, but it does not have the legal entitlements. So it's not shown on the city's maps as being developable. We would work closely with the city. Were it not for us, the property would still probably be in the medium category. But we have made strides already kind of casually, but understanding how the future of this property might go, it will take a number of years. Even when I wanted to try to develop it today, it's not a next year or the year after type getting the legal entitlements, although the physical ones like I said, are there, all utilities right there in front. So all that being said, my feeling was that an appropriate value for this property would be in the high $20-something thousand per acre. I should also mention that unlike most of the comparables, this one has substantial buildings on it, which add to value. There's 2 homes, there's other outbuildings that are worth at least $200,000 out of that number. So my recommendation was $27,000. I mean, the appropriate price was fair to both sides. I shared that with the school district, I shared it with the Lacey family, and that is the price that we have agreed on.
And community. All right, a few more slides on the Lacey property. We had Mark Roffers, who has a planning background, work to just lay out to scale what a potential site could look like, and it will likely look nothing like this. I got all philosophical with Dr. C and said, I'm not even sure they'll have parking lots 25 years from now. Everyone will have self-driving cars. They'll just need 50 charging stations for your robot car on the way back to the house. And all of that pavement won't even need to exist 25 years from now. But this does lay out for a high school building that has a capacity of 2,000 students and has most, if not all, of the outdoor amenities you want at a high school site. But again, this will it will not look like this. This is just a scale drawing to prove that what we're purchasing can fit on a 60-acre site.
Would this be, relatively comparable to what the site is here minus slope is?
Close. There are a few things that, at least on this current site, that, at least for the time being, I think you're short an athletic field or two, and we don't have the school for us. And that the parking lots are a little more squeezed than when we had a bunch of green and flex space available because of the size as well. A 60-acre lot is, I would say, fairly average for a large comprehensive site around the state of Wisconsin. And this is a purchase, but doesn't necessarily have to be the last purchase. We have the farm field to the south and an existing solar field that will sunset about the same time we may have to build to our west. So this is certainly ample property for a high school site. And we have potentially some options down the road to expand what that footprint will look like.
And the location, there is absolutely, there's a study on. Because anywhere, this is one side, there's also building across the street, also available space where we could, significantly distribute to.
Yeah, there is utilized but potentially underutilized big green spaces at Savannah and so on. That there's the potential there of upgrading. Who knows even what they have for daytime usage. We've had high schoolers walking across the street for additional practice space. And there's actually a Fitchburg City Park right across kind of the southeast corner of that property that has future partnership possibilities that is already as a result.
It's my selfish, it's my selfish. Instead of the robot, wonderful. I do have the question, as we've been talking about working, it sounds like, and I know this, it doesn't sound like, you've brought us updates in closed session about how diligent you've been in partnering with the city and things like that. I think as this is very close to my home personally, we've seen like when Lacey has gotten shut down because of construction, really bad traffic coming through our neighborhoods. I think I turn into the old lady who stands in the front yard and shouts, slow down, and the car's going like 65 miles an hour. So in that vein, I'm assuming that for the folks over there that are overjoyed at this potential, but also a little worried about the growth and traffic and things like that, that we'll be doing that due diligence as well of traffic assessments and making sure we're not bringing a bunch of traffic into communities without bringing in safety measures. Is that a fair statement?
Super fair statement, and I actually think Now, the city of Fitchburg's work around, in many regards, parallel work to what we're doing, knowing if we buy this property, the high school's coming someday, there may actually be traffic engineering modifications for more traffic than exists, because they know it will eventually come through. So I actually think there's a chance, who knows, 10 years from now, there's some intermediate steps to make sure that they can handle the traffic that exists, knowing that the high school might be coming. So the city of Fitchburg, the officials we've met, have been very excited about this possibility, but also know similar to what we're doing, they're going to have to take a long-range approach to what growth in that area of Fitchburg looks like and how to manage that.
That's good.
And people, because I've just gone through moving this high school, this has been a few years, but yes, this is going to be a future board, a incredible option.
Absolutely.
If things have changed, if something happens at the start of the line, we don't have to exercise this action. But they can never get it back.
I know.
If we don't take care of that. I think, Joe, that ties directly with what you're saying. We have kind of a uniform investment here. That is a, again, this is this feels like a once in a lifetime opportunity. Really great for the racing family.
Yeah, I think were it not for the fact that you two bring so much to the community, we wouldn't be talking about.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Letting the property grow as it were, but this was the right and use for your legacy.
It really is, and that's, I think, just the first, like, this is an asset to the entire area. But if the story doesn't come which seems like not.
Yeah.
Because, this is again, a 25-30 year down road.
With Pittsburgh growing so quickly, like it's expanding rapidly. So Chad, to your point, I think it's something I wanted to bring up because I know as a person who's signed petitions for speed mitigation on my own street, I know my neighbors and the people that are represented in my portion, it's something that they worry about, and I think it's just really nice to state as a fact, we're going to be just as thoughtful of that as we are with everything else, but also the city's going to have to deal with that anyways. The city's expanding, whether or not there's a high school there, there's going to be other things there, so even more, yeah.
But I also love the idea that this is capturing the campus here, I think that's a good.
I just really want to highlight, we are the Verona area school district. This encapsulates the entire geographical area with which we serve. So regardless of additional growth in Fitchburg, the number of students that this space would serve that already exist and are not changing from our district boundaries is hugely valuable. And just having taught in buildings in Verona and taught in buildings in Fitchburg, I think that is still just such, I appreciate the holistic view of how our district really is and recognizing this eastern portion for families that we serve on a regular basis that I think sometimes, I will speak for myself, feel as though I'm outside of the district in a lot of ways. And so that I'm just, with the stars aligning, I just appreciate that that is also to recognize the full scope of what we're talking about for our districts and who we're serving.
The other thing that I think is important when we're doing this property is there's a couple of pieces that are unique. We're right out of the criteria that, I think is a message that we have here for a year. I think this is unique and also a benefit for students and for staff and as commuters. But I think the bike paths there are unique. I also think what is great about this property is that it is already in a populated area. It's a little bit of a farming oasis as being built around us rather than a place where we're waiting for growth to reach it.
Yeah.
It's already going to be centered where students are. I think that is an issue that I've got some questions about some other, planning that this would resolve. Students are already here. This is not waiting to see if students roll it out.
And the price we're getting for that too, we're describing as a near medium, how it situates that for what we're being able to get in terms of the costs.
And I think if we talk about transportation challenges, this is already in the area.
Yes, it'll be, I wish I had that crystal ball like 20 years from now, when we own 60 acres donut, and everything's developed around it potentially. That property will be, they'll be like, I can't believe someone 20 years ago got it for $27,000 an acre. And when are you gonna build that in high school? Those conversations, those will exist at some point. Yep, without a doubt.
I think this is incredibly exciting. Again, just gratitude to the Lacy family and gratitude to both of you for approaching this and it's really exciting. Yeah.
Chad, can you speak to real quick, this is, we got the slides in here, this is, all in purchase price about 1.6 million. I don't want any community members listening thinking that we're talking about increasing their taxes to pay for this. We already have this covered in the fund balance.
But this is a $1.6 million one-time purchase. We did not need to go to the referendum for it because of all the planning that happened. Really, the previous board and certainly this board around how we manage our fund balance. And we're in a place now that we will have a fund balance in excess, as we close out the books this year, in excess of $25 million. And actually this year, we'll actually be able to include this purchase into our general budget. We actually will not need to run an unbalanced budget because we still have excess resources from the $19 million operating referendum that could have been used for a fund balance deposit or debt defeasance. So this is, the timing is perfect for this. I did not need to bring to the board an unbalanced budget. We did not need to go to referendum for this purchase. And it actually isn't even going to hit our fund balance. So it's, the timing could not have been better. And the board can honestly think of it as an asset we are putting in the bank. You still own it. And if to Meredith's point, it just didn't work out 20 years from now, you can always sell this and it's still a district resource.
So the other question, I wanted to make sure that we clarify, where we don't have to take this to a vote now, because we're going to cover it. If and when we decide that this is the time to break ground, the community gets to vote, they have to say it. And that's where there isn't, this isn't operating without community involvement. It's just going to be the involvement of the community as it exists in 25, 30 years. They're the ones who get to vote to decide where this is, if this is truly what we can access. So the appropriate community will weigh in at the appropriate time. And we can just kind of making sure that it's it really great.
Yes. Okay, so to wrap this up, we have a signed offer, and that just happened last month. And we have some contingencies built into that offer, many of which have already been done. We did a title study, we did a formal survey, we did a phase 1 environmental study called the UNP farmland, and all those boxes have been checked. The property is just what we thought it was. And we are ready to move towards a closing on this. The final checkbox in terms of contingencies is a board vote. We do not want to do that all in one evening. We want to actually give a 2-week window. If there are community members who have feedback for our board members to inform that vote, we certainly welcome that. And we will bring this back to the board again at our next board meeting for a formal board vote. And we'd actually like to have this all wrapped up before the end of 2023. Sometime and that's what I detailed on this last slide. And then down the road, Amy kind of mentioned this has already begun, but next level work for us on this now will be starting to coordinate efforts with the city of Fitchburg to have those zoning conversations down the road. But certainly not immediate or an emergency in terms of the work that we do with Fitchburg. That will just be ongoing work with them. So our final recommendation will be on the 23rd. We will bring a recommendation to the board to call a vote. We believe this is an ideal location, and the board, certainly we are recommending the board vote to approve the purchase of this. We believe this is a long-term solution to an easterly property for a second high school down the road, and it's an excellent asset for the district. That's what I have on the Lacy property. Any other questions or comments? Perfect. Really good discussion. It is exciting. All right, a much shorter conversation, I'm hoping, but I will also bring to a board a vote to accept the donation. I read through board language. I'm not convinced that we couldn't accept this donation per what board policy says, but I mean, it's best practice. If at any time we're even adding a square foot to the district, that the board is involved. So I am going to ask for a board vote to accept this donation. So we've got a land donation just to the north of the softball fields outside Country View. A little bit of background on this: the developer has approached the district actually 7-8 years ago, and then COVID kind of dropped into the middle of it, and we had a changeover in administration, and they came back to us because the development was coming to the north of Country View there. And there was just an anomaly that happened in terms of surveying work and just the way our property was developed, where that thin little strip of land that now we are calling Outlot 4 had some pine trees planted on it for a backdrop for a softball. And then you can see a little road there to gain access to the water tower and egress across the way there. And the landowner is developing quarter-acre lots, and kind of saw the writing on the wall that down the road, as those lots drop and survey stakes are dropped, landowners may have questions around who's mowing it. I want to take down the pine trees. I want this done to the property, and the developer said we would actually rather donate this little strip of land to the school district for you to maintain. We like the pine trees; they'll be a good break for the houses that will eventually back up to these softball fields, and we'd like to donate for that. 5 or 6 years ago, this got hung up a little bit because there were previous easements for future fiber optic cable to be buried, and that never came to fruition, and will not be an issue with us accepting. We did our due diligence on this. There's nothing there. That's blank land, empty land minus our pine trees. And if we accept this donation, it's kind of a three-way trade. The city of Verona is asking for essentially an easement to have access to that strip of land in the event that they need access to the water tower. So we have a number of easements for utilities around the district, and this would just be another example of that. Notice I haven't seen any red flag we already investigated that. So if the board has any questions, I will answer that. Otherwise, I'm going to bring back a recommended motion to accept the donation of Outlot 4 from H&H Properties LLC at our board meeting on the 23rd, and then have 2 votes relative to property donation and acquisition at our next board meeting. Questions on Outlot 4?
Can we use donated property costs the school district and sort of unforeseen money?
We have technically already been maintaining property we didn't own for the last 20 years. So we're already mowing it. My guess would be some version of Patrick 20 or 25 years ago planted those pine trees, and we currently maintain, I think, everything south of that little driveway area.
The softball, the district owns those softball.
We do that.
So when you talk about like the planning after the future comes fast.
Yeah.
This is all stuff like the beginning of board service, and paving that, and seeing this development come in, getting moved very quickly. We all make space if
Correct. Any other questions on Outlot 4? John?
There's following up on the maintenance question. Do we plow that?
No, I believe the city plows it to gain access to the water.
I'm not.
But this is where I have to develop, the development.
It made total sense. It's like the total the total strip of land, I think, is only like 26 feet wide. It's it's not huge, but it made total sense for them, like, you guys just maintain it, and it's a clean break, for the softball fields, and they saw the writing on the wall. If that didn't happen, like I said, one property owner decides, we're taking those pine trees down, the next one, why are you doing that? That's school district property, no, it's not. I think they just saw it coming,
Yeah.
and it made total sense for them to just give us that.
I appreciate it.
And it's almost squatters' rights, so we need to fight with the hard way.
No, it's a.
Yeah.
Let's do it, eminent domain, everything. Fine.
All right, I think that's all we have in the exciting world of property acquisition. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, really do appreciate
Yeah,
it. This
thank
is
you.
exciting, and we'll make sure that the future school board in 25 years fully recognizes where this site is.
Play the tape back every night.
Yes. Everyone was watching. Future planning.
Right, that officially closes the superintendent's report. Thank you. Thank the team for attention on the land. And, I don't know if they're watching, but definitely doing a good job for the rest of the family.
Yes.
Thank you so much for everyone to come to each other, for the donors, for the, glad to see the property. The board try to go in that direction. Definitely.
Yeah, just that they are able to reach the district. And we want to do that.
Great, great, great.
And it's what's there?
Okay.
So we kind of jumped into the board action.
I think we want to switch to your board action, other,
Just to ensure they're notified.
yes, but I was also going to board employees.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah, I had a quick question. I had, suggested you look at the Be Safe program. I believe, Madison Cross Plains School District, Middleton, Enfield, even here, I make mistakes. The Middleton Cross Plains School District just started posting about this program as well, and it's just focused on gun safety, of locking and securing guns, as it's a leading cause of deaths among children. So I had proposed that we maybe entertain as a group having either somebody come present to us, like how this could be distributed and how other schools are doing it in a very non-controversial, just, hey, here's some information and here's the services available to support families. So that'd be something cool if we could fit it into the schedule. Yeah. It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
In 2006.
So let's talk about it after the meeting, but then go.
Exactly, exactly.
Any other board updates?
Congratulations to the high school kids, performance of Cinderella.
It was so
It was
good.
last week. They did great. It was really good.
Very, very good. The 2 o'clock show had a lot of little children there, in crowns and wands and dresses, and yes, I think my daughter walked around and told everyone who would listen that Cinderella was her neighbor. So celebrity status was reached.
That's not from there. I would say that's not, I hope they don't do that. So we're going to walking by on Friday night. Someone asked me, was that when I mentioned, would you outsource the active
No.
Yeah, we bring rangers in.
Wow.
But I took it as.
They're very
Yeah,
talented.
yeah, yeah, performers or who put the voice and everything. But the whole production of it, it's not, I don't forget about the kids behind the scenes, the stage crew. There's the whole set of costume changes. I'm gonna have it.
Very exciting. we also have the following.
Because Coach Riley is making us hold real tight until we have it by ourselves, because I know we can't be, we can catch it.
Okay, so we have the big team.
That's more.
Also, we have, just FYI, the last meeting is Thursday. So this Thursday, and then we go, and we should, then we go, and we go, and it's, we can should, if not, we do, or if we consider acceptance.
Yes. West.
Okay. Any other updates? All right, so with that, we'll move on to public comment. And we can move into superintendent consent agenda. Does anyone have any questions about the consent agenda? None. Consent agenda is approved as presented. We can move to board consent agenda. Any questions about the board's consent agenda? Any questions? Hearing none, the board's consent agenda is approved as presented. We added the future agenda items. That's going to be on the 23rd, and hopefully foreshadowed by the other actually coming up. That's exciting stuff. Still trying to get a date nailed down for our workshop. We will work on doing that in the next week, so we can get that in the room some calendars locked down. Yeah. And then the next. So I'm probably watching the game game in October, so I'm just like, what could we be doing in December feels really kind of good. We cannot see. Okay, so with that, I'd like to adjourn to closed session for Wisconsin statute 19.85, sub 1, sub G, for review of the council for the governmental body to render forward with the advice and strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved in a construction lawsuit. Is there a motion for Jen? Motion for John, is there a second? Second. Second from Jen. The roll call vote, starting with Joe.
Aye.
Corby.
Aye.
Jen.
Aye.
Nicole. Aye. John. Carlos. Aye. And I am as well. We are officially in the session. Let's take a 5-minute brief. Break. And we'll be back here. Thank you, everyone.